Literally, the first mod we bought for our EcoBoost Mustang after wheels and tires was a set of Pro Kit lowering springs from Eibach. These springs are a great option for the driver who wants their car to sit a tad lower than stock, but still wants to retain the stock drivability and comfort. Onto the install, we tackled the front springs first. After removing the wheels, we first removed the sway bar end links and pushed them aside. Next, we removed the two bolts that hold the caliper in place and set the caliper aside, along with the rotor. The two bolts that hold the strut to the spindle are splined on each end and need to be tapped out with a hammer after loosening the nuts. After they are tapped out, the nuts can be removed along with the bolts. The last step is to remove the top three strut tower bolts, then the strut can be taken off the car. Now, using a spring compressor to hold the factory spring, remove the top nut from the strut assembly and slide the strut from the spring. We then replace the factory bump stops with Eibach replacements along with the dust cover. With the new spring compressed, slide the strut back in place and tighten the top nut. Placing the newly assembled strut back into the car is opposite of removal. Loosely tighten the three strut tower bolts, then bolt the strut back to the spindle. Then fully tighten the top three nuts. Next, the sway bar end link can be replaced along with all the ABS clips that hold the ABS lines in place. The rotor and caliper can be put back in place and the caliper bolted on tight. Repeat the same process on the other side and the front spring install is completed. Moving on to the rear, remove the brake line bracket and ABS line bracket in preparation for removing the IRS subframe. Unbolt the top two bolts on the rear shock, then the sway bar end link. Place a jack under the IRS subframe so that we can remove the subframe bracket bolts. Now the spring is ready for removal. You can pull down on the lower control arm in order to get the spring out of the car. Replace it with the new Eibach rear spring, then you can replace the subframe bolts and bracket. The ABS and brake lines can be reinstalled to their mounts and tightened down. We removed the rear shocks in order to install Eibach's new bump stops. Simply remove the top nut and dust cover, then replace the stock bump stop with the newly supplied Eibach unit. Once the shock is replaced, the wheels can go back on and tighten down with a torque wrench. Overall, we saw about a 3/4 inch drop in the front and rear of our EcoBoost car with the Eibach Pro Kit. It is just the perfect amount for the car that is daily driven with stock drivability intact. The car rides just as well as stock with slightly better cornering ability and much better curb appeal.